Okay, I've been wanting to do a video about my tires. Tires I'm currently running, the tires that I have been running up till now. So over here to the left, I have my stock tire. It's a 2.5 by 10. Pretty low profile, nothing wrong with the original tire. I just wanted something a little bit bigger to absorb more of the road vibrations, and I do a lot of dirt riding and sand. So I wanted something to kind of float over instead of dig in so much. So I originally went with a 3-inch tire, which I have in my description and on another video as well on my parts list. So this is a 3.0 by 10, half-inch bigger, significantly larger and wider, and I'm super happy with it. I didn't have to do any modification in order to get it on. It was a great tire, but it didn't look proportionate to the front. I got the exact same size tire and same brand and everything, 3.0, except obviously it's a 12 for the front. And the front just looked just a little bit bigger and poofier than the rear. Obviously because the rear wore out a little bit, maybe that has something to do with it. But even when they were both brand new, the front looked too big for the rear. I like it, proportionate. So I decided, all right, when this tire wears down about 50%, which is where it's at now, I'm just gonna get the next size up. So they have a 3.5 and a 4-inch tire. So I was like, all right, I'll just go up another increment. So I went 3.5 to this tire. Here, I'll put them all up side by side. This one has air in it, so obviously it's gonna look a little bit taller and bigger, but you get an idea here, the difference, what a half-inch will do in the right area. So, I originally put this tire on, and I go to put it on, and at the bottom here, it doesn't slide back and forth like a CRF 50. It's just a C-notch on each side, and the axle just drops up into it, and it is exactly where it is, so you can't really adjust that. So I go to put that on, boom, it hits my motor. It's hitting the little bracket right here, the universal bracket that it comes with on these kits. It comes with like a little bracket off the motor that you can like mount it to like a flat surface, like for a go-kart or anything like that. And I actually had to grind half of that down, which gave me like, an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch. And then I ground into the actual motor itself as much as I could before I felt like I was gonna break through, just to get the tire to fit. I go to put it on, it doesn't fit. Crap. So what I had to do was I had to actually grind the back of the C-notch on the swing arm in order to get the tire back. Now I added a brake here, so when I did that, it moved the rotor back about a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, and it started hitting the rotor. So then I had to took this rotor apart, sorry, not the rotor, the brake caliper. The rotor was hitting the brake caliper because it moved back. So I took the brake caliper off and I grinded it out, thinking that it would be just enough to not rub. It helped a little bit, but I ultimately had to drill these holes bigger on the mount for the brake caliper and swing this brake caliper out a little bit and then bolt it down. So that came out pretty good. Some modification to my brakes. Another thing is the original brake here up at the top, because the top of the rotor is the highest point and my brake caliper sat at the highest point, when I moved it back about, 1/4 inch, the entire brake pad was no longer on the rotor. So I was only getting about half of, if not like 75% of the brake pad on the rotor. So my brakes weren't working that great. So what I did is I had to grind down the original mount, the bracket right here on the brakes, grind it down like a 1/4 inch, and then re-drill the 2 holes and mount the original brake down just to get it completely covered the brake rotor. So ground that down, moved that back, ground this. And then another thing I did on the actual swing arm was, because there is no way to keep it from sliding forward, even if you tighten it as much as you can, there's a possibility. I put a tack in front right here, so the washer, here's the washer, I put a tack, so the washer, because now it's sloppy in there, because I made it larger, I didn't want it to shift forward on a big bump or a jump, or for whatever reason, or even maybe the torque of the motor could pull the wheel forward. I wanted to make sure it stayed exactly where it was. So I just put a little tack on both sides and just mist it with a little grease paint. So so that way that it doesn't slide forward. So I would recommend this tire. I'll put it in the link. No modifications needed. But this tire, unless you're willing to do everything I just did, I mean, granted, you're not going to have to do the back brake modification because I added the back brake and not a lot of people have this. They just go hydraulic. I decided to go the cheaper route and just add a brake here, and it works great, but it's not for everybody. So you're definitely going to have to modify your swing arm, grind out your motor, and move this brake down if you want anything bigger than a 3-inch tire. One thing I saw online after the fact that I could have done, it might have been a little bit easier, is you take this bolt out on the rear bolt on the motor. Okay? You take this rear bolt out and you actually swing the motor up, and then you make a little bracket that bolts here and then remounts your motor a little bit higher in here in your swing arm, which will pull it away from your tire so you can fit a bigger tire. I didn't find anything like that online prior to doing all this. And I mean, moving your tire back makes you have a little bit longer of a wheelbase, which is more stable. I'm not saying a 1/4 inch is going to make a huge difference, but it's better than nothing. And my motor still looks relatively stock, where there's not a metal bracket and it's moved around. So I went this route. It might be easier, and I would probably recommend just moving the motor, because it's just one little bracket you got to do and you got to swing it up and you're done. I don't know what kind of modifications you need to do to the chain tensioner if you do the motor, if you move the where the motor position is. But I didn't move mine back enough to have to lengthen my chain, but my tensioner that used to sit up here, it now sits down here. So my chain is a little bit tighter, and my tensioner is a little bit tighter, but it doesn't make any more noise than it did before, and it hasn't given me any problems. So yep, that's the rear tire. Now I'm going to move on to the front tire. The front tire is confusing and difficult, and I'll tell you why. It comes with this tiny little skinny thing. If you look at here, I'll read it off. It says 16 by 2.4. This is a 12-inch rim and a 12-inch tire, but they call it a 16 for whatever reason. And guys online say, oh, it's a 16-inch tire, a 14-inch rim. It's not a 14-inch rim. And if you go to look at an Amazon or you go to look for a replacement, it says it's either a 14 or a 16. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand. So I bought a 12-inch tire. This is a 3.0, the exact same brand tire that my old rear one was. And one thing to note is this front rim is single walled. I've mentioned it in my other videos. It's impossible to get a tire on this rim without bending the rim. I mean, I'm not a professional, but I have all the right tools. I'm not just, jamming it on there with a flathead screwdriver. I have all the right stuff to do it correctly, and I've put on dozens of rims in the past with dirt bikes. Never had a problem. This rim, it's soft. It's like aluminum, thin, soft. And something to note if you're going really fast on these things and you weigh a lot. But I would recommend taking it to a shop and having them put a tire on, because it was hell. I destroyed my first rim, and this is actually, I bought a replacement rim off Amazon for 80 bucks because I destroyed my first rim putting that tire on. I ended up riding it anyway, really wobbly for a while, and then I was like, I gotta get a new rim. So I got a new rim. I went at it a little different, used a lot of soap, and I got this one on and bent it just a little bit, but it is bent. It's pretty much impossible to get a tire on, especially this tire, because like I was saying on the rear, the sidewall is very, very thick. So I don't know if I would recommend this tire for this front rim in particular. The tire's great, but the rim's shit. So that's something to note. Another thing is it's a 12-inch rim, 12-inch tire, and try not to get confused like I did with this 16 by 2.4. I don't understand that at all. But so that's the front tire. I do plan on going a little bit bigger in the front now, because I know it sounds funny, but the front was too big for the rear, so that's why I got the bigger rear. But now the rear is a little bit too big for the front, so I feel like I'm gonna be just going back and forth until these things are like huge, massive balloons. But it's all the process, So I'm happy with the way it looks now. I love the way it rides. These tires are great, but that is some of the struggles I've come across and some of the things that I've had to deal with that maybe if you guys watch this video and you guys are modifying yours, maybe it'll help you or keep you from pulling your hair out like I have. So that's it for the tires. Any questions or anything, just throw it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer it.